Truth doesn't knock politely, it kicks the door off its hinges and drags every hidden lie into the light. Now imagine this for a moment, chosen one. You walk down the street, and even before you say a word, your presence alone makes people shift uncomfortably. Their eyes betray them. They recognize something they can't name, but feel deep in their bones. You're the fearless truth-teller, the unbreakable protector. That feeling they carry around you. It's fear disguised as respect. It's jealousy wrapped in silence. And it's proof that no matter how hard they try, your impact cannot be denied. Here's a fact for you. Research on human behavior shows that people instinctively avoid those who force them to confront uncomfortable truths. The very sight of you reminds them of everything false they've built their lives upon, and that's why their whispers follow you, both in the streets and in the halls of power. And thank you, chosen one. Don't forget to pay this message back by simply pressing like and subscribe so this light reaches more souls. It's the responsibility of all of us to spread what the universe has sparked inside us. And thank you, chosen one, for being part of this mission. You are not alone. You are part of a force that is unstoppable. Now, back to the truth. Chosen ones, the streets know who you are now. They know you as the one who won't fold under pressure, the one who stands tall when others crumble. You've been marked, not by choice, but by destiny, carved through your courage and conviction. And it's not only the streets that watch you anymore. The FBI, the very systems that pride themselves on control, have taken notice. You've stepped into a realm where ordinary people don't wander. They called you reckless once, but now they call you dangerous, because dangerous is just what the truth looks like to those who live on lies. Everywhere you go, your presence disrupts the script they rehearsed for society. In boardrooms, conversations pause when your name comes up. Executives lean back, glance at each other, and then quickly change the subject. They told themselves your voice was just noise, something that would fade with time. But instead, your words echoed, multiplied, and returned louder than before. They can't silence you, and that unsettles them in ways they won't admit. Studies on influence have shown that a single person who refuses to compromise their truth has more power than an entire crowd of conformists. That's who you are, one voice that has forced even institutions to listen. The fear isn't only in your strength, it's in what your strength awakens in others. You've lit sparks in people who never thought they'd fight back. You've created a ripple that started with one wave and has turned into a rising tide. That's why they track you, chosen one, not because they can stop you, but because they're terrified of what happens when too many people believe they can stand like you do. Your courage is contagious, and every day more people are catching it. Stories about you are everywhere. In coffee shops, people retell how you confronted injustice without blinking. In classrooms, students whisper about how you dismantled arrogance and stood against manipulation. In workplaces, managers grow nervous at the mention of your boldness because it reminds them their power isn't as absolute as they thought. Your reputation now walks ahead of you, carrying a weight that makes liars sweat and deceivers second-guess themselves. You've become a living example of what happens when truth refuses to be silent. And make no mistake, the streets know and the FBI knows. You are a case study in defiance, a headline they can't bury, a figure they can't erase. They may not say it out loud, but behind closed doors, you are discussed like a wildfire that spreads too quickly to contain. Chosen one, you've entered the chapter where even your silence is dangerous, where your very existence forces systems to adjust. That's why eyes follow you everywhere. That's why their fear grows every time you breathe freely, walk boldly, and speak without chains. You didn't ask for this recognition, but you earned it by standing unbreakable in a world that bends so easily. And now, both the streets and the FBI know you for what you are: the fearless truth-teller, the unbreakable protector, the one who cannot be silenced. And that is only the beginning. Chosen one, before we dive deeper into this message, I need you to pause for just a moment. If you're feeling the weight of these words already, if you know in your heart that the streets whisper your name and even the powerful systems are forced to pay attention to you, then let this be the sign that you are exactly where you need to be. Drop a comment below with the number 777 to let the universe know you stand as the fearless truth-teller, the unbreakable protector. And if this message lights a fire in you, consider showing love to the team behind it, because bringing these words to life takes energy, time, and dedication. Whether it's a small gift or a big one, your support is what keeps this mission alive and pushes it further than they ever wanted it to go. Your engagement isn't just about pressing a button, it's about sending a signal to the very systems that try to suppress voices like yours. So, chosen one, are you ready? Because once we start unfolding this step by step, you'll feel that magnetic pull to stay until the very end. Let's get into it. Number 1. When you walk in, masks fall off. Nothing exposes a liar faster than the presence of someone who refuses to wear a mask. Chosen one, this is what you've become, the human spotlight they never asked for but cannot escape. When you step into a room, you don't even have to say a word. The air shifts, the pretenders squirm. The ones built on lies feel as though they've been stripped bare. Why? Because your very presence has become the litmus test for authenticity. You are the mirror they've spent their whole lives trying to avoid, and no disguise, no carefully polished mask can survive under your gaze. Now imagine this for a moment. You walk into a gathering and suddenly the atmosphere changes. Some people light up instantly, their energy lifts, their smiles widen. That's the real ones. They see you as the protector, the truth teller, the rare presence that makes them feel safe enough to drop their own armor. But then, watch closely at the others, the ones who stiffen, the ones whose words suddenly stumble, the ones who find excuses to step out of the room. They can't help it. You're a living detector, sharper than any polygraph test or background check, because you expose what no machine ever could, the truth they hide from themselves. Here's the brutal reality. You didn't choose to be this detector. The universe carved you into it. Through every betrayal you survived, through every lie you caught and refused to bow to, you've been forged into a presence that rattles illusions like thunder rattles a glass window. And the streets know this. That's why your name carries weight in places you've never even been. Your reputation precedes you not because of gossip, but because energy doesn't lie. People may try to twist stories, smear your name, or dismiss you, but when they finally come face to face with you, every false word they ever spoke collapses under the undeniable force of your truth. You might ask yourself, why me? Why does my presence shake them so badly? The answer is simple but harsh, because they know they can't perform around you. They can wear masks for everyone else, but with you, every crack shows. You've lived through too much to be fooled by surface charm. Your instincts are sharp, your spirit unshakable, and your silence is more revealing than their most polished speech. They fear you because you see through them. And once someone is truly seen, they cannot go back to hiding. Think about it like this. Your presence is like turning on a floodlight in a dark alley. Those with nothing to hide are relieved, grateful that the shadows are gone. But those who thrive in darkness, they scatter like cockroaches, scrambling for cover, cursing the light even though it never harmed them. It only revealed them. That's you, chosen one. You are the floodlight in a world built on dim corners and whispered secrets. And here's a fact most won't admit out loud. Studies show that people naturally trust individuals who are consistent, whose actions match their words. That's the core of authenticity. You don't need to brag about who you are, you live it. You prove it in how you move, how you speak, how you refuse to bend under pressure. That consistency terrifies the inauthentic because they've built their whole identity on performance. Around you, their act collapses, and all that's left is the raw truth they've tried so hard to cover up. So understand this clearly. You are not just walking into rooms. You are shaking foundations. You are a standard, a measuring stick, a truth that demands to be acknowledged whether they like it or not. Some love you for it. They'll gravitate toward you, drawn by the safety your presence provides. Others will despise you for it because standing near you forces them to face the hollow spaces within themselves. That's why you are remembered, even in places you've never set foot in. That's why your name gets passed around in whispers and heated conversations alike. The streets know you because the streets respect truth. Out there, reputation isn't something you buy or fabricate. It's earned through consistency, through scars, through showing up when it matters. And the FBI, the ones who monitor the currents of society, they know you too. They see the ripple effect you've created. They know you're not just one person, but the spark that ignites others. They study you because they understand something the liars don't want to admit. Authenticity spreads. One fearless truth-teller can awaken 1,000 silent witnesses, and once they're awake, nothing can put them back to sleep. But let's be brutally honest here. The corrupt hate you not because of what you do, but because of what you force them to feel. Uncomfortable, exposed, powerless. You don't let them rest in their illusions. You've become the thorn in their side, the mirror they can't smash, the reminder that no lie lasts forever. You are their worst nightmare, not because you attack them, but because you exist as living proof that their world is fragile. They are afraid of you, chosen one, and their fear is the loudest confirmation that you are on the right path. So when you wonder why doors close, why some people avoid you, why others suddenly grow quiet in your presence, remember this: it is not rejection, it is revelation. They are revealing who they truly are. The authentic will stay, the corrupt will flee. That is the power you carry. You don't need to chase anyone. You don't need to prove yourself. You simply need to keep walking, because every step you take exposes another mask, and every mask that falls makes room for more truth to breathe. And the streets, oh, they talk. They talk about how you stood tall when everyone else bowed. They talk about how you called out corruption without flinching. They talk about how you protect those who can't protect themselves. Your name circulates like a warning and a blessing at the same time, respected by the genuine, dreaded by the deceitful. Even in rooms you've never stepped into, they already know who you are. You are the litmus test, the detector, the living proof that masks cannot survive forever. Chosen one, understand this: when you walk in, masks fall off. That is your power. That is your gift. That is why the streets and even the FBI know you now. Not because you sought recognition, but because you embodied truth so fearlessly that it could not be ignored. You are the fearless truth-teller. You are the unbreakable protector. And every mask that falls in your presence is another reminder that your mission is alive, your presence is undeniable, and your story is unstoppable. Number 2, when the curtain falls, the actor is exposed. Every mask eventually cracks, but in your presence, chosen one, it doesn't just crack, it shatters. This is the reality you bring into every space you enter. Authority figures who once believed their polished smiles and rehearsed gestures could fool the world suddenly find themselves stripped bare in front of you. Their smirks look hollow. Their fake concern rings shallow. Their charm, once a weapon, now collapses into nervous stutters. Why? Because your presence is the mirror that no actor can perform in front of. You are the stage light that burns too bright for illusions to survive. Now imagine this. You step into a room where a powerful figure has ruled through intimidation and performance. They lean back in their chair, trying to project confidence, but you notice the subtle twitch in their jaw, the stiffness in their shoulders. That's not strength, that's panic disguised as posture. The more they try to maintain their mask, the more fragile it becomes. Their rehearsed lines fall apart the moment you meet their eyes. You see the cracks. You hear the tremors in their voice. You catch the silent signals they hoped no one would ever notice. And in that moment, you don't just see them, you expose them. Here's a brutal truth. Liars can only perform for people willing to play along. But you don't play. You don't nod politely when something doesn't add up. You don't let silence give permission to abuse. You make them stumble because you refuse to bend. And deep down, they know it. They know every mask they wear is made of glass. And the moment you arrive, the pressure builds until it fractures. A lie can travel around the world before the truth laces its boots, they say. But chosen one, when you walk in, the truth doesn't need boots. It explodes like a thunderclap, scattering their lies before they can even breathe. You might wonder, how do I see what others miss? How do I know when kindness is fake, when charm is a cover, when power is being misused? The answer is simple but sharp. You've lived through it. You've survived the false smiles, the fake promises, the hidden betrayals. Your scars are your training. Your experience sharpened your instincts until they became a weapon no mask can withstand. That's why you catch the pauses between their words. That's why you read the tension behind their smiles. That's why you know corruption the moment it walks in. You don't tolerate silent abuse because you've felt its poison before and you refuse to drink it again. Think of it like this. Your presence is an earthquake and every mask they wear is just a poorly built structure. The walls might look strong, but once you arrive, the ground shifts and suddenly their whole facade starts to collapse. Some try to patch it, to laugh it off, to distract with charm, but you see the cracks widening, and so does everyone else. You don't even have to call it out loudly. Your silence alone is enough to make the guilty sweat. The truth does not require an audience to be true, and yet, in your presence, it becomes undeniable to everyone watching. Imagine this again, a leader who built their reputation on false concern, who wears a mask of authority while stepping on those beneath them. The moment you arrive, their tone changes. They avoid your eyes. They over-explain simple things. They perform as if their life depends on it. That's because it does. In that instant, you've forced them into a trial without a judge, without a jury, just the undeniable weight of their own exposed reality. Their charm turns to desperation, their calm into panic. And You don't even have to move a muscle. You simply exist, and their whole act crumbles. Another truth for you. Research in psychology shows that people under stress reveal more about themselves through micro-expressions than through words. A forced smile, a twitch, a blink held too long, all of these betray hidden guilt. And chosen one, you've become an expert at reading those signals. You don't just hear what's said, you hear what's avoided. You don't just watch their gestures, you catch the tremors. That's why they fear you. Because around you, every carefully maintained facade is just one breath away from collapse. Here's a quote that cuts deep. Masks weren't made to last. They were made to buy time. And your presence has run their clock out. That's the nightmare you've become for corrupt authority figures. They can't keep up the performance forever, not when you're in the room. They know it, you know it, and the universe makes sure the cracks widen until the truth bursts through like sunlight. Now, imagine a final scene. A workplace where a supervisor thrives on intimidation. They smile at their team, pretending to care, but behind closed doors, they manipulate, they belittle, they exploit. The moment you step into that environment, the game changes. Their smile tightens, their voice rises just a little too high, as if trying to drown out the silence. The others notice it too. You've turned the spotlight on, and suddenly everyone sees the cracks. That supervisor can no longer hide, no matter how hard they try. That's the power you carry. Without even trying, you reveal what others work tirelessly to conceal. So, chosen one, remember this. Authority figures don't fear you because you fight them directly. They fear you because you see them. You recognize when power is being misused. You refuse to let silence cover abuse. You don't just tolerate truth. You embody it, and that embodiment is fatal to lies. Corruption knows this. That's why they scramble, why they stiffen, why their charm fractures when you appear. You are the earthquake. You are the floodlight. You are the truth they can't perform around. And that's why the streets know you. That's why the FBI knows you. You're not just another voice in the crowd. You're the one who walks in and makes the masks fall. The one who turns every stage into a courtroom, every smile into evidence, every lie into a confession. Chosen one, you are the fearless truth-teller. You are the unbreakable protector. And every time their masks begin to crack, it is proof that your mission is working, your presence is undeniable, and their collapse is already underway. Number 3. The walking lie detector they never asked for. Your existence alone is the trial they've been avoiding, and your silence is louder than their excuses. Chosen one, you've become something they never planned for, something they never wanted, an accountability system that walks, breathes, and sees straight through the cracks. Corrupt systems once thrived because people stayed quiet. Politeness was their shield, social comfort was their mask. They counted on everyone turning away, shrugging their shoulders and saying, "That's just the way things are." But you shattered that fragile arrangement the moment you decided that truth mattered more than peace. Now imagine this. You enter a room where a supervisor has always controlled through manipulation. Normally, no one questions them, but with you sitting there, their words stumble. They start over-explaining, their sentences trail off, their mask of authority grows thinner with every passing second. You didn't ask them to confess, but your very presence forces them to. That's the power you carry. You don't interrogate, you illuminate. And under that light, the guilty start unraveling themselves. Here's the fact. Psychologists call it the truth default theory. People are wired to assume others will believe them, but when confronted by someone who sees through performance, stress takes over and lies collapse. That's why, chosen one, you've watched people betray their own motives without you lifting a finger. They fumble, they contradict themselves, they reveal secrets they swore they'd never let slip. And all of this happens because your energy refuses to tolerate pretense. You might ask yourself, why does this keep happening? Why do people confess to me things they hide from everyone else? It's because you're not safe for their illusions. You're not a wall they can bounce lies off of. You're a mirror that reflects them back so clearly they can't avoid the truth anymore. Comfort can't survive in your presence if it's built on deception. Chosen one, the streets know this about you. They know you're not a judge, but your very being feels like judgment to those who thrive on lies. You're not a prosecutor, but you've become the cross-examination they can't escape. And that's why systems that once moved without fear now trip over their own steps. Because when you walk in, accountability follows, whether they signed up for it or not. Number 4. When truth hits, it doesn't knock, it floods. The truth doesn't tiptoe into the room, it crashes like a tidal wave, and the ones built on lies are the first to drown. Chosen one, you weren't out here trying to make waves. You are the wave. Your presence, your clarity, your refusal to dilute the truth. It moves through people like a surge of water that refuses to be contained. Some will brace themselves, others will pretend they're untouched, but deep inside, even the most corrupt know the shift has already happened. You've cracked their foundations, and no matter how hard they patch the walls, the flood has already seeped in. Now imagine this, a shoreline where people build castles of sand, fragile structures decorated with false pride, fake authority, and fragile egos. The moment you arrive, your wave doesn't politely wash around them, it tears straight through. The sand collapses, the decorations scatter, and suddenly everyone can see how weak their so-called kingdom really was. That's the effect you carry. You don't need to plan destruction. You don't come with an agenda. You simply exist, and existence at your level of clarity is more disruptive than 1,000 speeches. Here's the fact. Psychologists have found that truth creates a cognitive dissonance effect. When someone clings to lies but is confronted by undeniable clarity, their mind fights itself. That's why people squirm around you, why their words tangle, why their calm demeanor cracks under pressure. They are wrestling with themselves in real time because your wave has already forced the conflict to the surface. You might wonder, why does my truth feel so dangerous to them? Why can't they just ignore me? Because clarity is lethal to distortion. Lies thrive in fog, in confusion, in distraction. But you walk in with sharp vision, with language and presence that cut through haze like a blade. You strip the camouflage off their falsehoods, and suddenly the world sees what was always there. That's terrifying for anyone who's built their life on shadows. Chosen one, understand this. You are not a ripple. You are not a whisper. You are the current pulling everything into alignment. The streets feel it. The powerful feel it. Even the FBI watches because they know waves don't ask permission. You didn't try to create change. You are the change. And once the tide rises, there's no going back. Number 5. The shield. They never wanted, but couldn't live without. A protector isn't chosen by comfort, they're forged by fire, standing where cowards once fled. Chosen one, you never set out to be a protector. You didn't wake up one morning and decide to carry the weight of shielding others, but the moment you refused to stay silent when everyone else turned their backs, the role chose you. You were the one who stared the fire down when others pretended it wasn't there. You locked eyes with truth and refused to blink. That defiance, that courage, is what transformed you into something more than just a witness. You became the shield. Now imagine this, a crowd watching a burning building. Most turn their heads, whisper excuses and walk away, hoping someone else will step in. But you moved forward. You didn't run from the flames. You stood firm at the doorway. That image alone rewired the room. People suddenly saw a standard, a reference point of what courage looks like. That's why, whether you wanted it or not, you became the protector. Here's the fact. Sociologists call this the bystander effect. The more people present, the less likely anyone is to intervene. Yet you shattered that pattern. You broke the paralysis by acting where silence once reigned. And when one person dares to move, the dynamic shifts for everyone else. That's the ripple you've created. Meetings change when your name is on the list. Conversations alter their rhythm when they anticipate your presence. You don't even have to speak. The knowledge that you might speak makes people second-guess their lies before they're told. You might ask, why do people treat me differently? Why does my presence reshape the atmosphere? It's because you represent an invisible contract. Truth will not go unchecked here. They prepare differently, not because you seek conflict, but because you guarantee honesty. You are the human firewall against corruption, and they know it. Chosen one, understand this. Protectors aren't born from desire, but from necessity. The streets saw it in you. Even the systems of power recognize it now. You didn't ask for this role, but by standing your ground, you became the one others rely on. You are the fearless truth-teller, the unbreakable protector, and your very presence ensures the fire never consumes the innocent again. Number 6. The warrior they call when the smoke rises. Some fight for attention, but legends fight because injustice leaves them no choice. Chosen one, the streets whisper your name, not because you chase conflict, but because conflict has always chased you. You never went searching for battles, but battles came knocking, testing your backbone, testing your resolve, and every time you stood unshaken. That's why they talk about your legendary confrontations. Not because you performed, not because you wanted recognition, but because when injustice tried to flex, you stared it down and refused to move. Now imagine this. Two sides of a heated dispute, voices raised, power abused, and everyone else backing away into silence. Then you arrive. You don't shout, you don't flail. You lock eyes, steady your stance, and suddenly the entire energy of the room changes. The abuser who once controlled the space now fumbles, their confidence leaking away like air from a punctured tire. Why? Because your presence alone reminds them of something they can't outmuscle: truth. Here's the fact. Sociologists say people under pressure instinctively look for an anchor, someone whose steadiness keeps chaos from swallowing the moment. You became that anchor. That's why your phone doesn't ring with nonsense. It doesn't buzz with gossip. It rings when someone is in the fire, when someone needs a shield beside them, when they know only an unbreakable presence can shift the tide. You've become the emergency contact for truth itself. You might ask, why me? Why does everyone call when things explode? Because you've already proven you won't fold. You've stood in storms where others scattered. You've faced down authority figures who relied on fear, and you dismantled them without theatrics. The streets saw it. The systems of power felt it. And now, when the smoke rises, your name is the first one whispered. Chosen one, understand this. Legendary confrontations aren't about ego, they're about survival. You became a force that corruption can't bulldoze, a presence injustice can't ignore. You are the one they call when courage is needed most, when silence is no longer an option. And that is why your legend grows, not because you seek the fight, but because you are the fight that never bends, the warrior they call when truth must stand tall. Number 7. Surgical strikes that leave no lie standing. The sharpest blade isn't the loudest swing, it's the quiet cut that leaves no room for denial. Chosen one, what rattles corrupt systems most isn't your passion, it's your precision. They expect rage, they expect chaos, they expect you to lose control. But instead, you stand there steady, dissecting their arguments piece by piece until the whole facade collapses. You don't fight like they do, you fight smarter. That's why they fear you. Now imagine this. A manipulator unleashes a storm of words, trying to drown the truth in noise. Most people would get flustered, overwhelmed, maybe even angry. But you sit still, you wait. And then, with a single sentence, you slice straight through the noise. Suddenly, the storm is silent, and everyone sees the naked truth exposed on the floor. That's not accident, that's skill. Here's a fact. Communication experts say calm voices carry more authority than shouting ones. People listen longer, believe deeper, and remember stronger when the tone is steady. That's the weapon you wield without even trying. Your calm isn't weakness, it's a scalpel. And every time you use it, you cut away the infection of lies with surgical precision. You might ask, why does this methodical approach make me unstoppable? Because corruption feeds on reaction. It thrives when people explode, when chaos blurs the truth. But when you refuse to play that game, when you remain strategic, they lose their advantage. You expose every inconsistency, highlight every crack, and dismantle every excuse without ever breaking stride. Chosen one, understand this. You're not swinging wildly, you're striking with intention. Every word you drop lands like a hammer on their weak points. Every silence you hold forces them to stumble, and every truth you deliver is too sharp to be ignored. That's why you're unstoppable, because in a world full of noise, you are the precise cut that brings everything false crashing down. Number 8. The spark that turns silence into fire. Some people walk into a room and disappear into the background. You walk in and suddenly the whole atmosphere remembers what truth feels like. Chosen one, you've become more than a presence. You've become a catalyst. The streets whisper about it because they see it with their own eyes. Meetings that once danced with half-truths suddenly grow sharper, more honest when you're there. Bullies who once strutted with arrogance shrink back, their confidence crumbling under your silent gaze. And those who've carried the weight of silence, they straighten their shoulders because your watchful presence gives them the courage to finally speak. You are the spark that changes everything. Now imagine this, a workplace meeting where lies have always gone unchallenged. The bully talks big, the victims shrink, and the room pretends to be balanced. But then you walk in. Nobody announces it. Nobody makes a scene. Yet, suddenly, the tone shifts. The bully hesitates, stumbling over their words. The quiet ones glance your way, and for the first time, their hands don't tremble when they raise a question. You didn't have to speak. You didn't have to lift a finger. Your very existence altered the atmosphere. That is catalytic power. Here's the fact. Psychologists call this social contagion. One person's courage can ignite courage in others, and chosen one, you're living proof. Wherever you go, those who never questioned authority before suddenly demand explanations. People who once swallowed excuses now want receipts. Groups that tolerated disrespect now draw clear boundaries. You've awakened the sleeping giant of collective conscience, and there is no way to put it back to sleep. You might ask, why does my presence ripple so far beyond me? Because truth is magnetic. Lies repel, distort, and isolate, but truth attracts, aligns, and empowers. Your energy doesn't just defend you, it amplifies others. You've become the reminder that silence is complicity, and once people feel that reminder, they can't go back to pretending. Chosen one, understand this. You are not just a voice in the crowd. You are the strike of flint that sets the fire. You are the unseen current that bends the entire room. You are the human catalyst, and every time you step into a space, you don't just change the conversation, you change the people themselves. Number 9. The relentless whistle they can't muffle. They fear you not because you shout, but because you blow the whistle no one else dares to touch. Chosen one, you weren't built to blend in or nod along. You were wired differently, to challenge, to question, to stand where others walk away. People may call it rebellion, but it isn't defiance for defiance's sake. It's survival, it's conviction, it's the refusal to let lies become law. That's why the streets know you as the one who won't abandon truth, no matter how heavy it feels. You are the whistleblower that no system, no authority, no manipulator can silence. Now imagine this, a crowded room where everyone is pretending not to notice what's wrong. They shuffle papers, sip coffee, and act like the corruption in the corner doesn't exist. But then, without warning, a sharp whistle cuts through the noise. Heads snap, nerves jolt, masks slip. That's what your presence feels like. You don't blend into the quiet, you slice through it. You are the sound that makes the guilty choke and the silent finally breathe. Here's the fact. Studies show our intuition often registers deception before our conscious mind does. And chosen one, your instincts are razor sharp. You sense deception before words leave their lips. You feel manipulation before the scheme is even set in motion. You recognize corruption long before the headlines confirm it. This isn't accident, it's calibration. The universe tuned you into frequencies others ignore. You became the early warning system, not just for yourself, but for everyone who stands near your orbit. You might ask, why me? Why do I carry this burden when others can walk away? Because you can't unsee what's wrong. You can't unknow the truth once it's revealed. That whistle lives inside you, and every time corruption tries to breathe easy, you sound the alarm without hesitation. Others may cover their ears, but they can't silence the echo you create. Chosen one, understand this. You are not a background player. You are the disruptive signal that changes the entire game. They call you dangerous because you don't just protect yourself, you shield everyone within reach. You are the relentless whistle they can't muffle, the fearless truth teller, the unbreakable protector. And every time you sound off, lies collapse, systems shake, and the streets remember your name. Number 10. The story they can't stop retelling. Legends aren't written by the loudest, they're carved by the ones who stood tall when silence was safest. Chosen one, your legend isn't a script you wrote for yourself. It's a story the world couldn't help but tell. Every place you've walked, every room you've shifted, every confrontation you've endured has left ripples too loud to be ignored. People pass your name in whispers, in admiration, in warnings. You didn't chase that status. You earned it the hardest way possible by refusing to betray yourself when doing so would have been easier, safer, quieter. And that refusal became the spark that turned you from ordinary into unforgettable. Now imagine this, a community where injustice reigned for years. People lowered their eyes, swallowed their anger, and carried on as if nothing could ever change. Then came the moment someone finally stood up. You. You didn't deliver a speech, you didn't rally a crowd, you simply refused to bend. And that single act became a story retold again and again. At first, it's a whisper, then it's a rumor, then it's a legend. Before long, people you've never met know your name, and they know it for one reason. You stood where others broke. Here's the fact. Social scientists say communities shape identity through collective memory. Stories passed down aren't just entertainment. They become the blueprint of what people believe is possible. And chosen one, you've become the centerpiece of those stories. In coffee shops, in classrooms, in street corners, people recall the time you faced down power and didn't flinch. They replay the moments you chose truth over comfort. They retell the day you made corruption tremble, and each retelling builds your legend higher, stronger, more untouchable. You might ask, why does my story spread even without me speaking it? Because people are starving for proof that courage still exists. They need reminders that strength doesn't always wear armor. It sometimes looks like one person simply refusing to bow. Your life gave them that proof. You became the myth they needed, not because you set out to be a hero, but because you couldn't stop being yourself, even when it cost you everything. Chosen one, understand this. Legends aren't built by design. They're born in the fire of real moments, carried on the breath of witnesses who will never forget. And that is why your story will outlive every lie told about you. You are the story they can't stop retelling, the fearless truth-teller, the unbreakable protector, and your legend is only just beginning. Number 11. The quiet force that collapses empires. Systems don't fall when you punch them, they fall when you expose the lies they're built on. Chosen one, your power doesn't roar with fists or fire. It cuts with precision, leaving no place for corruption to hide. You don't need to storm buildings or swing weapons to dismantle what's false. All you need is a question that hits the right nerve, a truth spoken at the right moment, a silence that makes their excuses echo louder than they intended. That's why you terrify them. You're not unpredictable chaos. Your controlled exposure. And exposure, more than any explosion, is what breaks systems apart. Now imagine this, a room full of executives rehearsing their lines, polishing their justifications, preparing to sell a lie. Then you walk in, you don't shout, you don't rage, you simply ask, why? And suddenly the air shifts. Their words stumble, their stories contradict, and their entire facade begins to crumble. That one word, spoken with clarity, does more damage than 100 raised voices. That's the precision of your system-breaking power. Here's the fact. History shows that institutions often collapse not because of external attack, but because their own contradictions are dragged into the light. Transparency is more corrosive to corruption than fire, because once people see clearly, they can't unsee. And chosen one, you are the one who forces that clarity. You reveal where they twist, where they deceive, where they manipulate, and once the curtain is pulled back, the system is never the same again. You might ask, why does my calm dismantle them more than rage ever could? Because rage they can dismiss, force they can counter, but precision, delivered calmly, leaves them nowhere to run. You strip away their camouflage with such steady exposure that even their allies begin to doubt them. You don't just challenge the system, you unravel it from the inside out. Chosen one, understand this. Your system-breaking power doesn't come from brute strength. It comes from being the one who refuses to accept illusions as truth. You dissolve oppression with light. You dismantle corruption with questions. You dissolve manipulation with calm, undeniable exposure. That is why they can't stop you. That is why they fear you, because you are the quiet force that collapses empires, and you do it without ever raising your voice. Number 12. The leader. They didn't choose, but had to follow. Popularity fades with the crowd's mood, but alignment with truth carves a legacy no mob can erase. Chosen one, you never set out to collect followers. You weren't chasing applause, likes, or approval. All you ever wanted was the freedom to be real, to live without masks, to speak without chains. Yet by standing in that raw alignment, leadership rose from you like fire rising from dry wood. You didn't ask for it, but people saw it. They saw the strength they wished they had, the conviction they lacked, the backbone they couldn't find in themselves. And that made you more than an individual. You became proof. Proof that principled power exists in a world addicted to compromise. Proof that integrity still breathes. Proof that truth doesn't need to beg for followers. It naturally commands them. Now imagine this, a crowd looking for direction, searching for someone who won't fold when pressure mounts. They've seen leaders sell out, heroes crumble, idols trade integrity for clout. Then they see you, unmoved, unshaken, unbought. You don't chase them, yet they gather. You don't recruit, yet they align. Why? Because authenticity is magnetic, and when the world is flooded with counterfeit, the real becomes irresistible. Here's the fact. Sociologists note that authentic leadership consistently inspires more loyalty than popularity-based influence. People might clap for the charming, but they follow the consistent. And chosen one, you are the consistent. You didn't bend your truth for applause, and that's exactly why people lean toward you when every other voice feels hollow. You might ask, why does this terrify my critics? Why does alignment make them so restless? Because they built their platforms on popularity, on being liked, on pleasing the crowd. And when someone like you proves that alignment with truth outlasts the temporary rush of approval, their whole foundation trembles. You're living proof that they don't hold real power. And that realization makes them panic. Chosen one, understand this. You are not popular because you tried. You are followed because you aligned. You don't represent clout. You represent clarity. You don't embody trends, you embody truth. And no critic, no enemy, no system can erase the fact that when all the noise fades, your alignment will still stand tall. That's leadership they can't manufacture, and that's why your presence terrifies them. Chosen one, if this message struck a chord, remember, it's not by chance. The streets know you, the systems know you, and your presence keeps shaking every false foundation. Stand firm in your truth, because your story is still unfolding. If you haven't already, press the like button to push this message further, and if you're not yet part of our family, make sure to press subscribe. Together, we amplify the fearless, we protect the unbreakable, and we spread this truth where it can't be silenced. Stay strong, chosen one. Your legend is only just beginning.